Hey everybody, welcome to another video. Today is a big day. I am doing a pork belly for the very first time. This is a 2.3 pound pork belly from Von Hansen's Meats. Wanted to start with the small one for the first time. Don't want to screw it up. It's pork belly, shouldn't be able to screw it up. Low and slow is gonna get you just supposedly the best product every single time. But I'm also only feeding myself here. So 2.3 pounds, that's what we're starting with. We're gonna cut this up, put some rub on this bad boy, let this go for about 2.5 hours. After 2.5 hours, we'll wrap these up, put some special sauce on them, cover them up, and these are gonna be fantastic. So let's get the grill fired up, check her out. All right, so for today's smoke, we don't want to go with a wood that's too bold, like a hickory. So we're going with a lighter wood. We're going with a fruit wood. So today, apple wood with our pork belly. Pork belly is an amazing piece of meat already. The flavor is fantastic. We don't want to overpower that flavor. We just want to complement that flavor. So a lighter smoke is the way to go. For that same reason, we're going to stick with charcoal briquettes. Basic flavor, not overpowering. Let's get this grill fired up. And here we have our beautiful piece of pork belly. Pork belly, of course, is where bacon comes from. When you buy it like this, it's uncured. So in order to turn this into bacon, you would have to put this through a curing process. Maybe I'll make a video about that. But for today, this is a completely raw piece of pork belly. Now, pork belly comes from the belly of the pig, naturally. Very high fat content, which makes this perfect for making on a smoker. All that fat's gonna render together, soften up, almost become gelatinous. And we are gonna put some spice and some sauce on this, give it all our love, and dang, I'm excited about what we're gonna make here. So to get started, you wanna cut your pieces in about 1.5 inch cubes. So those cubes are gonna start at 1.5 inches, but they will reduce during the cooking process to be a little bit smaller. So don't be afraid to err on the side of going a little bit bigger as you are setting this up. All right, so we've got these cubed up into some really nice shaped pieces. So just about the same size on all sides. So now we're gonna wanna coat these in rub. It's very important to make sure you get rub on all sides of every piece. For today's rub, we're going with a super common one. You can find this at every single grocery store. This is Famous Dave's Rib Rub. This does great on ribs. It's got some sweetness to it that I want for the pork belly. So we're gonna coat these bad boys in Famous Dave's Rib Rub today. Once you think you've got these good and coated, just go ahead and work them around a little bit. They'll pick up the extra rub off each other, the extra rub on the cutting board, and get it in all those nooks and crannies so it can work its magic. Beautiful. All right, I'm just going to apply a little bit of oil to these grates. There's probably enough fat in these that the oil isn't going to hurt if it's not on the grates. But I always oil the grates before I put something on. It can't hurt, but it could harm if you don't put it on. So we're going to put these spaced apart enough so that the smoke has space to get in between every single one of these pieces. Don't worry if some of them are misshapen, that's okay. This one was one of the last pieces that was on there. When you set them on, squeeze them together. Try and make it as close to a cube as you can. Those pieces will be just fine. Some of the best parts of pork belly when you make it are some of the misshapen pieces that get just slightly overcooked compared to some of the other ones. Those are delicious in their own right, so don't be afraid if you've got some pieces that aren't quite perfect cubes. Okay, that looks good. Enough space in between them to let that smoke do its magic. Let's get these bad boys out on the smoker. All right, so our smoker is currently sitting at 279. We've got this set to 275. So we're gonna do these at 275 for about 2.5 hours. So this is just the initial startup. You tend to see it go just a hair above 275 on these smokers, but it'll settle right into that temp. But this smoker is ready for pork belly. All right, so today we're gonna put these babies on the main rack here. I think this is a meat that can handle that. We're already getting some great smelling smoke. You can tell the apple wood is lit. So we'll put these right on the center and give these about 2.5 hours at 275. All right, it's now been about 2.5 hours. These are ready to come off. Just standing here, you can get a great sense of what that apple wood is doing. Very pungent. So I'm really excited to see what this is doing to the pork belly. Let's take a look. Oh wow. Nice and rendered down. Got some browning. You see they shrunk a little bit. So that's what we expected. That's what we want to see. But these look amazing. They smell amazing. So let's get these inside, move on to the next steps. All right, so we got the pork belly inside. I went ahead and transferred them to an aluminum pan. All right, so here they are in our pan. So what the process is to make burnt ends. At this point, you've either got some brisket or some pork belly like we have here, and you add in brown sugar. So what this brown sugar does, as we sprinkle it on here, this brown sugar is gonna almost candy these, bring in some sweetness. It's gonna marry with the fat and make these things just amazing. So we sprinkle that, give them a good coat. If you like them sweeter, you can add in more, but this will probably be considered sort of a good medium amount. Then these have dried. This is a crust on the outside. You can hear that scrape. So at this point, we're also gonna want to bring in a little bit more fat. So we're gonna add, for this size, I'm trying about a half a stick of butter. Let that help these things and just really bring the flavor out of these burnt ends. Once you've got everything set up in your pan, we're gonna cover this up. These are just gonna steam in there. And this is what's gonna melt those sugars. And make the fat on these nice and tender. So I expect these will go back on the smoker for about another hour, hour and a half at 275. Let's get them back out there. before these burn ends come out of the foil, the next step will be to heat up our glaze. Whenever you put a glaze, barbecue sauce, anything on the outside of the meat during that cooking process, at a minimum you want that to be room temperature. In a perfect world you want it to be hot. You don't want to put cold sauce on hot food. For our sauce here, for our glaze rather, I'm going to use what I have in the fridge right now. So a lot of you probably know the brand Stubbs barbecue sauce. This is their smoky mesquite. I made some ribs with this recently, so we're going to use what we've got left here. We're going to look for about a quarter to a half a cup of barbecue sauce. We're a little short on hot sauces right now, so I went and looked at what we had. We had some Frank's Red Hot, so we'll put some of that in. I'm going to say 1 to 3 tablespoons, depending on how much of that flavor you want to get in there. So there's a little bit of vinegar in that, so I'm a little bit apprehensive of adding this, but I love apple cider vinegar. Love it on any barbecue. So we're going to try that out here today too. Roughly 1/4 cup, just enough to break up the sauce a little bit, give it a little bit of runniness. Then the last thing that we're going to add to our sauce will be a little bit of the drippings that are coming out of that pan. That brown sugar, that butter, and anything that's rendered off of those pork belly pieces is going to make a great flavorful glaze. So adding it into what we're cooking here is going to really complement that flavor. So I'm going to add these ingredients, bring them to a simmer, get them warm, ready to accept the drippings that'll be coming off the pork belly. Okay, I've got my burner set to just over a medium heat, medium high. I want to get these ingredients warm fairly quickly because we're going to take the burnt ends off in about 10 minutes here. So I think I had said I was going to put in about a 1/4 cup of barbecue sauce. I'm going to look for a little closer to a half a cup, just because this is a smaller pork belly. I don't want to waste glaze here or any of these ingredients, but I did say I was going to use up the rest of this Stubbs, so we'll see how much comes out of the bottle there, and that's how much we're going to put in. So this is a 3/4 cup. I've got that about 2/3 of the way full, so we're looking at roughly a half a cup. All right, Frank's Red Hot, adding in some spice to that. We're getting some vinegar from that sauce. We'll say 1, 2, 3 tablespoons. And for just some more liquid in with these, you could use apple juice. Next time I probably will. Didn't have any apple juice on hand, so we're going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And just to balance out that acidity. If you were using apple juice, you'd get some more sweetness into this, but since we're not, I'm just going to sprinkle a little brown sugar in there and let that balance out the acidity from the Frank's and from the apple cider vinegar. So we'll give these ingredients a stir. They're already heating up, which is great. Very fragrant. That Frank's is coming through. Keep our station clean here. One thing that's always important to do is to taste your sauce along the way. By tasting, you're going to know what flavors you're actually putting on, and it will also let you change course midstream. If you think it needs a little more of something or a little less of something, you can add something that will complement anything that's been added too much, and vice versa. So we'll give this a try. Ooh, very nice. Yeah, those flavors actually balance together really well. A little acidity from the vinegar, but also the sweetness from that Texas mesquite. So we're gonna let this set up. I'll turn the heat down a little bit. We're already getting some good bubbling. So I'll turn this down to a medium-low heat. A few bubbles are okay. but we don't want to overcook this and reduce it down too much. A glaze should be liquidy. You don't want to put too much glaze on. You want a glaze to run over it and run off, just to complement the exterior and add that additional layer of flavor. Next, we're going to grab the pork belly off the smoker and take a look at what has happened while it was in the foil. Okay, got these in from the grill and the smoker. Let's take a look at what we're working with. Brought these inside and the dogs immediately jumped off the couch and came to check out what was going on. Woohoo! Wow. I know I keep saying wow, guys, but I'm really happy with what we've got. So you can see, maybe I'll bring you in closer here. These have a nice glisten on them. Before they were a hard crust, now they've changed texture just slightly, and that's from steaming these inside of that tin foil. So from here, we're gonna transfer these over into a second pan. Now, like I told you, we're gonna add these drippings over into our barbecue sauce. We've got a lot of great flavor in here, so I'm just gonna scrape the bottom of this pan. Those flavors developed over a long time, so we'll just give that a little bit of a mix, get as much as we can from that. So you guys can see we've got our sauce boiling. It's definitely hot enough to go on the meat and hot enough to take this, the juice from our drippings. So this is just gonna liquefy it a little bit. Like I said, we don't want this to be a very thick sauce. We want this sauce to just be loose. That looks like a good texture there. We want that sauce to be loose so it can just drop onto and off of what we're making out there. So stir this up, get this to be a consistent looking sauce. We are ready to glaze. So just looking at this pork belly, every single one of these guys, if you just squeeze them a little bit, they've all got some nice give to them. So you know what, that texture is right where we want to be. We'll bring in our glaze. It's not going to be perfect, and we can mix it around too. But we'll just put a little glaze on every one of these. Our layers of flavor so far are the rub. Coming back with the butter and brown sugar to sweeten them up, soften them up. Now we're adding a little bit of acidity with the Franks, the apple cider vinegar, some sweetness from our Stubbs barbecue sauce. That's like 10 layers. I lost count. Maybe you guys counted. But yeah, So I'm just gonna stir these around for a minute. Turn them over. Let them get the sauce off of each other. Do want them nice and covered. I've got a lot of sauce in the bottom of the pan too, which will be great. Just to roll them around in. Like a pig rolling in the mud. These are gonna be good. Oh, I wish you could smell these. Okay, so these are nice and glazed, ready to go back on the grill for about 15 minutes. Just enough time to let this glaze set up on the outside of these. All right, final step in the process. They are glazed. So, I'll give you a look as they are inside the grill here. Just beautiful. Glistening, slight little boil in that sauce. Fantastic. Let's bring them inside. All right, gang, here we are. Smells spectacular. Beautiful little glisten on the outside of them. Just a little sticky to the touch. Let's check out our squishability here. Oh yeah. Ooh. Juices are just dripping down onto my hand. Lovely. All right, I've got my napkin with me to catch these drops as we're trying them out here. So when we started out, we cut these to 1.5 inch cubes, and I think they've come down to about 1 inch. So lost about 1/3 of their size. I wish you guys were here. Great texture. Here's a look on the inside. So all that fat has rendered. It's reached that gelatinous point, kind of marinated into the meat surrounding it. Who am I kidding? These are bite size. You still have that crispness underneath the glaze from when we took them off at 2.5 hours. Oh, that's a little piece of heaven. Any excuse to make these, I'll take it. So that was one of our big pieces. I've got a little one. The way that the pork belly was cut, it wasn't quite perfectly rectangular, naturally. So there were just a couple of pieces on the ends that were a little bit smaller, so cooked a little bit more. So we'll try that out. Ooh. Very crispy. Good crispy bacon with about 10, 12 layers of flavor on it. I like how the glaze turned out. It's a tangy pork belly rather than sort of a traditional sweet. Tastes more barbecue-y than what I was expecting. I would use the apple cider vinegar again if you like that flavor profile. Apple cider vinegar, Frank's, and Stubbs Mesquite Texas style barbecue is what we used. And then again, a little bit of those pan drippings. Yum. Woo. These are good. We're sorry you were here to share them. All right, guys, so quick recap. We did a 2.3 pound pork belly. We put it in for 2.5 hours at 275. We used Kingsford charcoal briquettes and apple wood for the smoke. After the 2.5 hours, we put it in for about another 1.5 hours covered. We added brown sugar and butter to it. After that, we made our glaze. You can use anything you want to make your glaze. I was really happy with what we used if you like tangy barbecue. And put them in for another 15 minutes. Turned out spectacular. Would definitely do it again. All right, thank you guys very much for joining. Appreciate you watching another video from Jack and Blue Barbecue. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.